He's a very mild man who writes brutal, startling poetry.
I thought I was a very startling, brutal man who wrote very mild lyrical poetry.
Don't you read your own publicity?
Well, I read it, but I read it as a mistake. And I say, here's another mistake.
Does your mother think that when she reads it?
Oh, my mother doesn't read it that way. My mother just reads it as a triumph.
Is it triumphant for her to read that her son's next novel is going to be troublesome to the censors?
I think that that could be construed a triumph in 1966.
What, that your mother accepts it?
No, I don't think that anybody really considers the censor's opinion of your work definitive. The censor is in disrepute. The censor's having a hard time.
Because of guys like you?
No, because people really are having more fun in an obvious kind of way. At least people are professing their appetites in a franker way, although they're probably not getting turned on very much. But anyhow, the society seems to be making a lot about orgasms and appetites and freedom. One, by writing a pornographic novel, in a sense, you're forced into the role of a very minor hero.
I'm always curious to know what happens to the inner feelings of a writer or a poet when he takes this cry of suffering within him and puts it down into paper and sees it on 1,000 stands and knows it's going for $1.50 a copy. Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah.
You really want to know?
I really want to know.
What it's like?
Yeah. Why they do it.
I think the only reason why that particular activity is brought to light is because these kind of people leave evidence of their struggles. You know, other kinds of people don't leave that kind of evidence, like bricklayers. You know, you can't really read the anguish of the man's life in the wall. But because of the nature of writing, the thing is made articulate.
What happens to your own personal anguish when you see it spread across the country and you know that you're making money on it?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to make any money on it. I don't know. If you can sell your anguish, then you've probably done one of the best possible things you can do with anguish. You know, anything you can do with anguish is good. Like, you know, like Frank Sinatra said, "I'm for anything that gets you through the night." Print is a minor form of invisibility. I think that if you really get good, then you do disappear.
Have you ever thought of changing your name?
Yeah, I was going to change my name to September.
I beg your pardon?
I was going to change my name to September when I start writing songs and singing them.
Leonard September?
No, September Cohen.
Oh. But Cohen is such a standard name.
Yeah, well, September is pretty standard, too.
Not for a first name.
No, I thought that, you know, I always have this feeling that new things are beginning. And I thought that I would change my name and get a tattoo.
Where?
There's this place on St. Lawrence Boulevard. I don't have any plans. I mean, it's just as well, you know, the government, the country is just fine, society is fine as it is now without a government.
There is a government.
In this country? Well, I had the impression there wasn't a government.
Well, where do you get that impression from?
Well, I mean, I don't say this critically, but I think that Canada is one of the few countries in an enviable position of having no government. You know, it's simply something that nobody believes in. It operates, and there are no repercussions.
Would you think that...
Occasionally a dirty joke is told. You know, it's a stag party that you're happy you weren't invited to.
From what I know about you, you went through the usual schools and you got into law and decided that wasn't for you, and then you went back for an MA and decided that was out to drift, to go through all the motions and end up a poet, seems somewhere along the road you took a turn and made certain decisions for yourself that were
Listen,
off the
I
main
didn't end
drag.
up a poet. You know, that isn't that isn't the restroom. I wasn't looking for this. You know, this is just a kind of ID card that you've got to carry somehow because people are continually asking you for an ID card. But that is just. I've often said this. I mean, poetry is not an exclusive domain of writers or of poets, and poetry is a verdict, not a choice.